my people in the government, we have to retreat the Malayan Union because of the strong opposition from the Malays.
Malaysia is known for its legal system with many mysteries behind it. Now, let us walk you down to the lane on embarking the development of the Malaysian legal system before and after Merdeka, from the Straits Settlements to what we have as of today.
The Straits Settlements were a group of British terrorists located in Southeast Asia. The Straits Settlements was originally established in 1826, which consisted of Penang, Singapore and Malacca. British took control of administrations and Sultan lost power. Government mainly run by the British and locals were not given any posts. British settlements at Penang was founded in 1786, Singapore in 1819, Malacca, occupied by the British during the Napoleonic Wars, was transferred to the East Indian Company in 1824. In 1786, Francis Light landed in Penang and named the island Prince of Wales Island. Due to the light occupations of Penang, this instigated the establishment of Straits Settlement, which consequently comprises of Malacca and Singapore.
By the affirmative of His Majesty King George III, it is with honour that I pronounce this island as a fresh integration to the British Kingdom and flourish our development as a prosperous nation. I name the island the Prince of Wales Island in Penang, with the city of Georgetown to be governed by the East Indian Company under regulation of the Charter of Justice. God bless us all.
Alongside with the Straits Settlement, there were also federated Malaysian states formed. The Federated Malay States is the second stage colonized idea of Malayan incorporation of nation states after the Straits Settlement. Originated from 1874 until 1895, right after Pangkor Treaty of 1874 signed between British and local government. This marks the beginning of British rule in the country. British entered into treaties with the state rulers of Perak, Selangor, Pahang, and Negeri Sembilan, led by one British resident at each state. This mainly called as the resident.
On behalf of Her Majesty Queen Victoria, I, as High Commissioner of British, formally establish a State Council for Federated Malay States with Her Majesty consent, composed of residents of Selangor, James Davidson, and Negeri Sembilan, Martin Lista.
The term Unfederated Malay States was the collective name given to 5 British protected states in the Malay Peninsula in the first half of the 20th century. These states were Johor, Kedah, Kelantan, Perlis, and Terengganu.
On behalf of His Majesty King George IV, I formally establish a State Council for the Unfederated Malay States with the consent of His Majesty, which comprises of Kelantan, Terengganu, Johor, Kedah, and Perlis.
In contrast with the Federated Malay States, the Unfederated Malay States were more autonomous with their rules, enjoying some political discretion, and they were not administrated collectively. Although each had a British advisor in its administration, Sultan were still the main ruler in each state. It was known at the time that this British advisor cannot contravene with the subject matter pertaining to the Adat Melayu and the subject matter of Islam.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iqra' bismi rabbikal ladzi khalaq, khalaqal insana min 'alaq. Iqra' wa rabbukal akram, alladzi 'allama bil qalam, 'allamal insana ma lam ya'lam.
The Malayan Union was a union of the Malay states and the Straits settlements of Penang and Malacca. The idea of the union was first expressed by the British in October 1945 in the aftermath of the Second World War by the British military administration. Sir Harold McMichael was assigned the task of gathering the Malay state rulers' approval for the Malayan Union. He allegedly had utilized force, threat, and blackmail the sultans to sign the agreement. On 1st of April 1946, the Malayan Union officially came into existence with Sir Edward Jan as its governor.
How do I merge all of these federated Malay states, the unfederated, and the Straits Settlements of Penang and Malacca under one administration? I know we should make a scheme to improve the administration and the security of Tanah Melayu. And Tanah Melayu shall, because of this scheme, be prepared for eventual self-government. And I shall name the scheme Malayan Union.
The Malayan Union was placed under the jurisdiction of a British governor, signalling the formal inauguration of British colonial rule in the Malay Peninsula. The sultans, as a result of the union, conceded all their powers to the British Crown except in religious matters. The sultans effectively lost their sovereignty and political power. The union grants equal citizenship rights to all without discrimination of race and creed, including admission to public service known as the jus soli principle. Therefore means citizenship is no longer restricted to the native. The Malays lost special rights status as equal rights are given regardless of race and country of origin. Malayan Union saw the birth of Malay politics. It raised the political consciousness of the Malays and encouraged Malay nationalism. The Malays generally opposed the creation of the Union. The Malays also held a state of mourning for 7 days, where they wore white headbands, signifying their mourning for the loss of the Sultan's political rights. The United Malays National Organization, or UMNO, a Malay political association formed by Dato' On bin Jaafar on 10th of May 1946, led the opposition against the Malayan Union. The Malayan Union was dissolved and replaced by the Federation of Malaya on the 1st of February 1948.
My people in the government, we have to retreat the Malayan Union because of the strong opposition from the Malays.
Really?
Yeah. I think there's no other way to retreat.
Okay then, let's retreat. However, the system of government in Malaysia has changed after Merdeka.
Didongak ke atas, warna langit biru itu tidak berubah. Semakin terik panas yang dipinjam, semakin sempit hela nafas didiam, semakin parah sengatan amarah, semakin lelah anak-anak merdeka mempertahankan warna harmoni merdeka.
Wish that full self-government and independence within the Commonwealth should be proclaimed by August 1957. Soon after, and in accordance with the agreement, a constitutional commission led by Lord Reid and the other vice person was appointed to make recommendations for a suitable constitution for the nation. The commission was complete on 11 February 1957. The report provides extensive proposal concerning the main thrust of the previous emergency rule and state-federal relationship. That on 31st August 1957, at Stadium Merdeka, the Duke of Gloucester, acting on behalf of the Queen of England, handed over to Tunku Abdul Rahman the constitutional document signifying the independence of the Federations of Malaya. The Federal Constitution is the supreme law of the country. The Federal Constitution is the supreme law of the country by virtue of the Article 4, Clause 1 of Federal Constitution. It lays down the power of the federal and state government and the fundamental rights of the individual citizen. It applies to all states in Malaysia and only be amended by 2/3 majority of the parliament. Even though Malaysia adopt constitutional monarchy as one of the system of the government of Malaysia, it is need to be noted that federal constitution is above the monarchy and is the supreme law of Malaysia. This has been clearly stated in the federal constitution itself from the Article 4 of the federal constitution, which is the supreme law of the federation. This constitution is the supreme law of the federations, and any law passed after Merdeka Day which is inconsistent with the constitution shall, to the extent of the inconsistency, be void.
The federal government adopt the principle of separation powers under Article 1 to 7 of the Federal Constitution of Malaysia and has 3 branches: executive, legislative and judiciary. The state governments in Malaysia also have their respective executive and legislative bodies. The judicial system in Malaysia is a federalised court system operating uniformly throughout the country. Legislature. The bicameral parliament consists of the lower house, the House of Representatives or Dewan Rakyat, and the upper house, the Senate or Dewan Negara. All 70 Senate members sit for 3-year terms. 26 are elected by 13 state assemblies and 44 are appointed by the King and the Pertuan Agong based on the advice of the Prime Minister. The 222 members of the Dewan Rakyat are elected from single-member district by universal suffrage. The parliament follow a multi-party system and the governing body is elected through a first-past-the-post voting system. Parliament has a maximum mandate of 5 years by law. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong may dissolve Parliament at any time and usually does so upon the advice of the Prime Minister. Executive. While the monarch is the head of state, real executive power is vested in the cabinet led by the Prime Minister as the head of government. The Malaysian Constitution stipulates that the Prime Minister must be a member of the lower house of Parliament who, in the opinion of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, commands a majority in Parliament. The cabinet is chosen from among members of both houses of Parliament and is responsible to that body. The executive branch of the government of Malaysia consists of the Prime Minister as the head of the government, followed by the various ministers in the cabinet. Judiciary. The highest court in the judicial system is the Federal Court, followed by the Court of Appeal and 2 High Courts, one for Peninsular Malaysia and one for East Malaysia. The subordinate courts in each of these jurisdictions include Session Courts, Magistrate Courts and Courts for Children. Malaysia also has special court to hear cases brought by or against all royalty. Post-Merdeka. The Federation instigated a turning point towards the system of government of Malaysia, implying British influence has been cut off. For instance, the Parliament decided to go for amendment in regards to the provisional names that initially called Ordinance to be renewed to Acts. As for the State Legislative Assembly, the same mode of amendment is utilised in transforming the term to enactment.
Baiklah semua, pindaan Ordinan Kontrak 1950 kepada Akta Kontrak 1950 mengikut Akta Penyemakan Undang-Undang 1968 telah diluluskan Dewan Rakyat pada tahun 1974. Majoriti sokongan 202 orang ahli parlimen di mana 10 orang tidak hadir. Sokongan majoriti Dewan Negara sebanyak 50 senator di mana 8 orang tidak hadir. Akta ini telah mendapat perkenan ke bawah Duli Yang Maha Mulia YDPA Agong dan telah diwartakan sebagai Akta 136 pada 1 Julai 1974.
Malaysia practices parliamentary democracy with constitutional monarchy and the Yang di-Pertuan Agong is the paramount ruler. The federal constitution legislated with the setting up of conditions for this system to exist. There are many functions and powers of YDPA in Malaysia, which is YDPA has the executive power to appoint the Prime Minister. He also has the power to dissolve the cabinet. A general election is held every 5 years to elect representatives to the Dewan Rakyat and members of the Dewan Negara. The executive government, comprising the Prime Minister and his cabinet, is usually drawn from members of Parliament. Most of its members are typically members of the Dewan Rakyat. The Dewan Rakyat will usually drafting and discussing bills, decides matters of national interest, and reviewing the bill postponed by the National Assembly. In the House of Senates, members of the Dewan Negara are called senators and consist of 70 senators. The House of Senates usually reviews legislation that has been passed by the lower house. All bills must usually be passed by both of Dewan Rakyat and the Dewan Negara before they are sent to the King for royal assent. House of Senates can postpone a bill that has been passed by the lower house but has no power to reject.
That marks the end of our video. As the world progresses further, the framework for Malaysia's modern legal system will also improve better in depth for the benefits of all.